Excelsior, true believers! You are about to embark upon a journey, a trip to the 70s and 80s when mighty Marvel Comics ruled over all. The Defenders, Doctor Strange, the Champions, Deathlock, the Submariner, the Incredible Hulk, Killraven, the Son of Satan, the Macabre Man-Thing, and all your other Bronze Age favorites every week appearing on Defenders Dialogue. Now here are your guides, Christopher Golden and Brian Keene.
Excelsior, true believers.
That's right. Amen to that, brother. Welcome back, Chris. I am excited this week. We're going to talk about Supervillain Team Up issues 1 through 3. And I think we'll be able to get through all 3 of them.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Because, you know, it's not the fighting that makes this book interesting. No, I mean, you know, there's point being we don't have to go like blow by blow. I can't even speak. Blow by blow. Blow by blow. There we go.
There you go. That's right.
It's literally, we don't have to do that because it's the character stuff that makes this book interesting. I mean, the fights are fun, you know, but there's only so many times that Tiger Shark can get his ass kicked. Exactly.
And the character stuff in issue 1. Now, we should point out, the last 2 episodes we've covered giant-size supervillain Team Up, issues 1 and 2. At that point, it was so successful that they spun it off into its own bi-monthly series called Supervillain Team Up. But we get a new creative team. Tony Isabella, George Tuska on art. Tony Isabella writing, George Tuska on art, assisted by Bill Everett. Do you know why that's important, Chris? I mean, I know you know, but...
Yeah, I do know, Brian. But why don't you tell our audience the importance of Bill Everett to
Bill Everett? Bill Everett is the man who created Prince Namor, the Submariner. This was, in fact, his last work on the character. He died at the age of 55, and this artwork was done posthumously. Tuska finished the pencils that Everett had already done, and it was inked by Fred Kaida, another Golden Age legend, probably best known as the creator of Airboy. So very much a sense of history with this first issue.
Yeah, I was not aware that this was Bill Everett's last work.
Yep.
That casts a somber atmosphere over this episode, Brian.
It does. It does. You know, Everett had been working on Marvel's Submariner book, which as we said in previous episodes, so much of Supervillain Team Up picks up the plot threads from that canceled book. So I suspect that much of the artwork, particularly in the second half of this issue, were pencils that he'd done for the Submariner book, but then that got canceled and the pencils were in a drawer. He passes away and they rework it into Supervillain Team Up.
Oh, interesting. That's really interesting, actually. It wouldn't have occurred to me.
Well, yeah, because there's a jarring transition here that we'll get to.
You know, I want to tangent for just a second, and I know we want to cover all 3 of these issues, but I feel like there's a weird element of this where, now, having known Brian Keene for many years, I would not have guessed that Brian Keene was a guy who did all of his homework in high school.
No, I got other people to do my homework for me.
There you go. So
the problem with saying this, Chris, is as we're talking about this, my 12-year-old Dungeon Master 77.1 is sitting about 8 feet away doing his online schooling and is now hearing about how his father got other people to do his homework for him. Don't you get any ideas, young man?
This is not a good example, Dungeon Master. Do as your father says, not as he did. But I think it's interesting that now you always do your homework.
I do. Much like Dr. Doom.
There you go.
There you go.
Dr. Doom. So we have this this on again, off again bromance between Namor and Dr. Doom. And, you know, we have this thing where, once again, they get in an argument. It's really soap opera plotting here.
It really is. And what I love about this, the caption box on the very first page tells us that this is taking place only minutes after they defeated Andro's android army from the previous issue.
Right.
So only a few minutes go by and they're back to arguing again.
Right. They're back at their, so basically, we get into this situation, they argue again, Namor flies away, and then we get Doom sort of thinking about how once again, even though he has the best intentions of getting along with Namor and becoming his ally, they keep sort of shooting themselves in the foot with this. And he's the thought balloons here. He thinks, I once told Susan Richards, the Invisible Woman of the Fantastic Four, that many demons rule Victor Von Doom, but not those of pettiness or fear. But can pride be so far removed from pettiness? The Submariner's arrogance grates at my sensibilities. So really the whole theme of this series, Brian, is the fact that these two guys are both so arrogant that the other guy's arrogance is really irritating.
Yes. Yeah. It's some great character work. I mean, it's written in that bombastic 70s angst style that was so prevalent at Marvel, but this is one of my favorite incarnations of Dr. Doom and Namor both, for the character work here, because as you intimated, Doom then, he's lost in these thoughts and he then goes to this room and does his homework. He watches every battle he's had, not only with the Fantastic Four, but with the Avengers and Spider-Man and Hulk. And he watches himself get defeated over and over again.
And the last one is him getting defeated by Daredevil. It's like Dr. Doom versus Daredevil, and Daredevil won. So this element of but this is a rare moment where Dr. Doom is looking at all of this stuff and thinking, oh, it's my hubris. Yeah. It's my arrogance that causes me to get defeated again and again. And if I'm willing to put the walls down for a minute and allow this other super arrogant guy to be my compatriot, maybe I will have a chance to actually win one of these fights.
He says, today I put aside my pride and accept the reality. I do require not a pawn, but an ally.
Yeah. And you'll never see that. I mean, this is a thing. And in issue 3, we're going to take it a further step. I feel like we are watching Tony Soprano with his therapist.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's Doom thinking, oh, not a pawn, but an ally. And in several pages, we're going to get even further than that. But
yep. We then get that jarring transition that I mentioned, and you can see Everett, plainly on the art here. This is clearly pages from an issue of Submariner that never got published because the book was canceled. We see Namor at Hydro Base. Now, a quick backstory to Hydro Base. It was created by the supervillain, and he used it to launch hijacked jetliners from, and he turned the passengers of the jetliners into these green-skinned amphibians. And then later on, it became the base of the superhero Stingray.
Yeah, Stingray. And, again, another segue, or tangent, I should say, is that both Stingray, who's not in these pages, and Tiger Shark are these two characters who look great. They both have fantastic designs, and yet somehow they've never managed to become, so I'm not sure exactly why, because I love the idea of both of these characters, but I think it'd be real. I think both characters are ripe for a writer to go in and do something really interesting with them. But continue.
I actually pitched Marvel a Stingray miniseries.
And I'm not surprised that they didn't go ahead with that.
Yeah, it was. Do you remember the character Torpedo? Yes. He was in Marvel Premiere, and he was a co-star, of course, in Rom the Space Knight.
He appeared in the Defenders for a Day story.
Yep. I pitched Marvel a miniseries. It was Stingray and Torpedo, and it was basically an on-the-road buddy comedy with the two of them transporting the supervillain to custody. I think I pitched it to Warren Simon, was the editor, and he liked it.
Where you went wrong was that supervillain wasn't Tiger Shark.
That's where I went wrong. No, he liked it, but the higher ups at Marvel just I don't think they understood what I was going for, and that was it. That was the end of my Stingray pitch. So Namor is on Hydro Base, and suddenly he's electrocuted. There's some kind of trap there, and he wonders what's going on, and he then comes across his old pal, Dr. Jennings, who was a supporting character from the Submariner series. He's one of those human beings who was turned into a green-skinned amphibian. Long story short, he tells him that Hydra Base is being used by supervillains, and then some of Atuma's army shows up. Now, Atuma, you folks will remember, of course, from our run on the Defenders. He was a bad guy there several times. He's probably Namor's number one arch enemy.
Right. Which is a problem too, because, Atuma's one of those characters who's only interesting if you always loved Namor. If you know what I mean? Like Atuma doesn't have a greater significance like some of the great supervillains. So it's interesting here, but I do enjoy reading the Atuma, Namor, repartee. I do also want to point out though, Brian, for future reference, because it's going to come up later, one of the guys who's part of Atuma's little squad here, is a guy called Saru-san. And Saru-san is basically the court jester for Atuma.
Yes.
And we're going to see him again, but I want to point out his presence here.
Yes.
Okay.
Namor takes on Atuma's soldiers. He makes quick work of them.
Yes.
And Jennings basically tells him how Atuma showed up and took over Hydro Base. And, what should they do? Call in the Avengers? And, Namor bristles at that. We need no assistance to deal with the likes of Atuma.
Right. We don't need those surface dwellers to help us,
But then we find out that Atuma's not alone.
Atuma is not alone. We also introduced, by the way, these great designed vehicles called Octomechs.
Right.
Which basically look like if the alien invaders in War of the Worlds made tanks. They're flying, flying attack vehicles with long octopus tendrils. Metallic.
Yep.
But yes, Atuma is not alone because the aforementioned Tiger Shark appears, and in addition, Brian, the aptly named Dr. Dorcas.
Yes.
Because Dr. Dorcas is the most useless character. I explain because I'm sure you know more than I do about this stupid character.
Dr. Dorcas is another member of Submariner's Rogues Gallery. He is notable for something that will happen actually in this run of Supervillain Team Up. He's responsible for the death of a long time Marvel character going all the way back to the Golden Age, but I don't want to spoil that. But other than that, no, he's not notable. He was to Namor. If Atuma is Namor's Doctor Doom, then he is to Namor what, I don't know, the Impossible Man is to the Fantastic Four. He was never much of a villain, but teamed up with Atuma and Tiger Shark, and with the weapons of Hydro Base,
yes,
they're going to rule the world.
Yeah, he's an additional irritant, Dr. Dorcas, who supposedly has the powers of the Submariner. So whatever that,
Right.
Then a battle ensues, and I don't want to downplay. We're going to sort of skim right through it, but I don't want to downplay. This is cool.
It is cool.
This is a cool, Submariner basically starts beating the living crap out of Atuma and Tiger Shark, which I love. And it's not going to last very long because there are 3 of them. But this is great stuff, even something as silly as, Namor is fighting with Atuma underwater, by the way, folks, and he senses Tiger Shark coming at him from behind and dodges so that Tiger Shark takes out Atuma. And it's, obviously it's something you've seen a million times, but the art of that page is great.
Right. But unfortunately, the 3 villains do get the best of Namor. They render him unconscious, and we end on a cliffhanger. Goes right in to issue number 2. Tony Isabella still writing. My favorite Bronze Age artist, Sal Buscema, on the art.
Before you move on to that, I just want to point out that the way that they managed to get Namor unconscious at the end of issue 1 is that there is a gun, some kind of ray gun that Dr. Dorcas fires, and I think it was Isabella who wrote the dialogue, makes sure to point out from Dr. Dorcas, these weapons are astonishing, Atuma. Imagine an electrical charge that can be fired underwater without harming the weapon's wielder. And that is clearly a piece of dialogue intended to prevent 100 letters asking for a no prize. Anyway, yes. So Sal Buscema, Fred Kita on art, and Isabella on the script.
Right. And we open up with Tiger Shark, Dorcas, and Atuma taking Namor, into the Hydra base as a prisoner, unaware that they're being watched by Dr. Doom.
Yeah, and we have a lot of the sort of Doom pondering. He's just sort of reviewing the events of the past few days. He's still pondering, his reaction to Namor, Namor's reaction to him. And we get a recap of what happened in issue 1. And then we come back to, what's his face there? The, Sarusan, the jester.
Sarusan, the court jester. Versus Dr. Jennings.
Yes. Dr. Jennings. And Dr. Jennings bashes, Sarusan in the back of the head and knocks him out. Which I appreciate because these characters are always incredibly annoying. This is why the DC Comics character, the Creeper, is the one character. I love the Creeper so much. It's such a great idea, but he also is so irritating.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue. Yeah, great Neptune, the human has escaped.
He goes running off to alert Atuma. And we see somebody, Chris, hiding in the weeds, thinking that they still have a chance, but we don't know who that person is or what they're talking about yet.
We don't. And then we see that Atuma and Dr. Dorcas and Tiger Shark are dragging the unconscious Namor out of the water, but Tiger Shark sees that there's a fish nearby that's not a real fish. It's some kind of camera.
Now, Chris, I have to offer an aside.
Yes.
As you know, and as the internet knows, the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, occasionally has writers and filmmakers and others from the entertainment industry to come inside Langley and give talks. I have given 4 such talks. J.F. Gonzalez and I used to go down there annually. Our own Brian Keene Radio Network, Mary San Giovanni, has been a guest inside there as well. But they have different museums and things inside with changing displays for their employees. And the one year we were there, they had a spycraft of the Vietnam War. Okay, so this is Vietnam era technology that they were using to spy. And one of the things they had was a robotic catfish. That my handler told me, they could swim it up to dams and figure out where to put the explosives. It had a camera and a microphone inside of it. So here we are in the pages of Supervillain Team Up, this fantastical idea that Dr. Doom has built this robot fish with a camera.
Yep.
The stuff of science fiction, but we had already built it like a decade before in real life.
Yeah. See, there you go. And not only that, but we'd been strapping cameras and other things to actual living sea creatures and, sending them to spy.
Yes, we have. So Tiger Shark smashes the camera, and Doom is still sitting there thinking about, this ally he wants to make of Namor. And he decides that, when the proud Prince of Atlantis faces his hour of deadliest peril, he shall face it with Doom at his side.
And what I love about this series is it feels like every 5 pages, either Doom or the Submariner is deciding that they will be best buddies and allies, comrades for life. And then 3 pages later, they hate each other again. And that is the pattern of this series. So Doom basically goes out in Castle Latveria and summons a rocket and steps into it, and that's the end of chapter 1. And then we cut to Doom on the same beach where the Submariner had been going to visit Hydro Base, and Doom walks through the same ray, which electrocutes him, but his armor saves him from being harmed by that.
Yep, exactly. Then the Octobots show up.
The Octomechs. The Octomechs.
Octomechs, yep.
Yes. And Doom makes short work of them. I also like, Doom's armor in many ways is sort of like Damon Hellstrom's Nether Trident.
It can do whatever he needs it to do at the time.
Whatever he needs it to do like Darkstar's powers in the Champions.
Yep. What I love most about this scene, you got 2 of Atuma's soldiers piloting these Octomechs. And Doom is actually a little bit impressed by these robots. He says, I'd expected further resistance, but nothing like this. These intriguing machines almost compensate for the banality of their operators' threats. And then he says, Octomechs, how droll.
How droll. I feel like Dr. Doom in this scene is Brian Keene on Twitter. In fact, the next time some idiot comes after you on Twitter, I want you to promise me that your only reply will be Octomechs, how droll.
You know what? You have my word.
Excellent.
You have my word.
Excellent. All right. So there's a woman who is also one of these amphibians. She has seen Dr. Doom fighting with the Octomechs, destroying them. What she thinks is Dr. Doom. Only Dr. Doom is actually standing right behind her. What she's been watching is a holographic image of Dr. Doom, apparently.
Yep.
A lifelike projection of himself.
That's right. We find out that this green-skinned amphibian woman is actually Betty Dean Prentice. She is Namor's longtime unrequited love, going all the way back to the Golden Age. Now here she is in the Bronze Age. Like the other humans, she was turned into one of the amphibians. She's the Agent Carter to Namor Steve Rogers.
That's a good way to put it.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's it. She's brought into the Bronze Age here, as one of these amphibians, and she's able to give Doom a little background about Atuma taking over Hydra Base and how her people became, amphibious, and her intention to try to now work with Jennings to break Namor out. And then we cut to Namor in chains, with Tiger Shark and Dr. Dorcas. I'm just like, right. Who thought Dr. Dorcas was a good name?
Not only that, but he is drawn exactly like the character of Dr. Druid. If you put the two of them side by side, you couldn't tell them apart.
Yeah. Although, Druid, you're thinking of Druid's bald. You're thinking of what's his face from Doctor Strange, Baron Mordo.
Oh, Mordo. Yeah, Mordo.
Yeah.
You're correct. I'm thinking of Baron
exactly
Mordo.
like Baron Mordo.
Yep.
But so here's the thing I want to point out here. Last issue we talked about the way that Doom went from thinking of Namor as a pawn to thinking of him as an ally. And here he says to Betty Dean Prentice, when she explains her plan to try to get Namor out, she says, "You game?" And he says, "I admire your spirit, woman, and Namor is my friend." Dr. Doom just referred to Prince Namor the Submariner as a friend.
That's right.
Victor Von Doom has no friends.
Well, he does now. He's trying to change.
Yeah, he really is. I feel like it's like grade school in a way. And now, Brian, I want you to explain to people how Dr. Doom leads Betty Dean Prentice into Hydro Base, because as I said a moment ago, Dr. Doom's armor can do anything he needs it to do at the moment.
Well, yeah, they come up to a wall, and Betty tells him there's a dungeon 4 stories below the ground. But there's no back door in the wall. And Doom says, well, then we'll make our own door. He has a device in his armor which will sonically and silently blast a path straight downward. And then that's what he does. He tunnels through 4 stories of rock and soil.
With just something that fires off of his gauntlet of his armor.
Yep.
He's able to tunnel down through. I'm just like looking at it. I'm going, like, what? Even Damon Hellstrom's Nether Trident couldn't do this. That was my favorite bit because I was like, I'd be using that all the time. I feel like, the cartoon Journey to the Center of the Earth would have been so much different if Arnie Sacknewsome had this.
Yep.
And that was a reference only for people our age listening to this show.
Exactly. So they make it to the dungeon. And, Dorcas is standing there gloating, that he actually considered offering Doom a partnership in their little enterprise. Like Doom would have stooped as low as to work with these 3 bozos.
And also,
Chris,
by the way, this is an opportunity to bring up
I feel
Atuma's
Doom
helmet.
this episode. What's that?
I said this is an opportunity to bring up Atuma's helmet.
Bring it up.
It's like if some 1970s New York fashion designer had made Thanos' headgear, or like he's trying to get it's like a tuning fork on his head. I don't know what. It's just so stupid looking. But anyway, go ahead. I mean, at least Tiger Shark's fin has a purpose. He's supposed to look like it's a fin. Atuma's thing is just dumb. But go ahead.
Yep. Dorcas threatens Betty, and, she reminds Dorcas that, she and Namor have spent a whole decade being threatened by the likes of him, and they're still around, at which point he slaps her, and Namor loses his shit, but he's in chains, and he can't break free.
Now, see, the thing is that the villains see Dr. Doom, and they think, oh, fellow villain.
Right.
He's here, for we don't know why he's here, but clearly he's not here to help Namor.
Yep. And in one panel, Doom takes out Tiger Shark and Atuma both.
And saying, because he adjusts his sonic driller to a more satisfying function.
That's right. But while he's taking them out, Dorcas grabs that electrical ray gun from last issue, goes to shoot it at Namor, and what happens, Chris?
Well, Betty can't stand to see her love vulnerable and about to be killed, and she takes that blast for him. She leaps in front of it to save his life. Namor screams not again and rips free of his bonds, not to attack the villains yet, but to hold her as she dies in his arms. And then we get that great splash page, which now listen,
fantastic.
I don't want to downplay the death of Betty Dean Prentice. But the look on his face I can only equate with the look on Chuck Norris's face in Lone Wolf McQuade when they kill his dog.
Yep, exactly. And that is what we end on, is that look on his face.
I'm sure you'll show that look on YouTube.
I will.
But I will I will say, back to Lone Wolf McQuade, which I know you saw.
Oh, yeah. I own it on DVD.
Of course you do. And Lone Wolf, I'm 99% sure it's Lone Wolf McQuade. It's like they kill his partner, they kill like other innocents, and all this other stuff happens, and he's still behaving like he's just a cop still. But then the moment comes when they kill his dog, and then you can kill my partner. You can kill, I think they probably kill his girlfriend or what. I don't remember but they kill all these people who are important to him. But then they kill the dog.
It's like John Wick.
And that is it.
Yep.
That is it.
And that takes us to issue 3, Prince Namor as John Wick.
Yeah, and by the way, I just want to reiterate, I'm not comparing Namor's loss of Betty Dean Prentice to Lone Wolf McQuade's loss of his dog, just the look on Namor's face. But yes, issue 3, writer, a new writer. And that's the hallmark of this series, Brian, is it can't keep a creative team for more than 2 issues in a row.
It cannot.
Written by Jim Shooter. Yeah.
Jim Shooter coming in as the writer, and George Evans taking over as artist.
And with the legendary Jack Abel on inks. Yep. Now, George Evans I'm not familiar with, but he does a passable job on this.
Yeah. It's a jarring transition from Sal Buscema, but that's not saying anything against his art. It's just stylistically, it's very different.
Yeah. So basically, needless to say, Namor's pissed. Sorry, go ahead.
He's pissed, but he's still weakened. Remember, the dungeon that they have him in saps his powers. So, he launches himself at Dorcas, but Atuma and Tiger Shark basically, take him down. Fight breaks out. And while it's happening, Doom is standing there watching.
Yeah. Doom is an observer. What's weird about this too is like Tiger Shark first gives this speech to Atuma about how Namor is still too much of a man to be beaten by high and mighty words. And words are something Tiger Shark ain't got no use for. Which he's saying as he's giving his speech. And Namor says, for all your savagery, you were once Todd Arliss, and though we are forced to do battle, your words have won you the respect of the Submariner. It's a weird scene.
It's a very weird scene.
I do like the special effects of the punching here as Namor's getting his ass kicked.
Spacow! Stam!
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the weirdest lettering I've ever seen.
Yeah. I like Spacow, though.
Yeah. But yeah, Doom, he has an electrical gauntlet now.
Yeah.
He knocks out the villains, and he says, I seek Namor, none other, without killing the one I wish to save. And then he tells, Namor to stand up. He's here to save him.
Yeah. So without going through the, whiplash-inducing changes in Doom's plan over the course of these 2 pages. Basically, the idea is Doom doesn't give a shit about Namor's needs here. He doesn't care about his friend's needs. He doesn't care that Namor needs to take vengeance for the murder of Betty Dean Prentice. And he basically just zaps the bad guys. And then when Namor wants to stay and still defeat them, he zaps Namor and then basically teleports him back to Doom's own ship.
Yep. And back to Latveria.
Yeah, shortly back to Latveria. And the next section I thought was really interesting.
How come?
Well, Namor awakens. He's been put into it's called a chemical brine bath. So artificial seawater bath, which has refreshed him. And he's woken by a woman who is one of Doom's subjects, and then brought to Doom by another of his subjects, And Namor is astonished to find that they're pleasant, that they're loyal to their master, that they think he's a great leader, that yes, he can be cruel when he's thwarted, but that he supports them and cares for them and wants the best for Latveria as far as these subjects are concerned.
Yep.
Which comes as a shock to Namor.
That's right. And it comes as an even bigger shock that Doom doesn't have his forces working on conquering the world. He has them working on avenging the murder of Betty Dean and going up against Dorcas and his cohorts.
Which Doom could have done when he had them at his mercy a few pages ago. But basically, once he brought Namor back, he was pondering it, and he realized that if they truly intend to be allies and friends, according to Doom, and Doom continue it several times in this scene, calls Namor his friend, even after he gets angry with him and lashes out at him with the same kind of disdain, you ungrateful water snipe. He then falls back because he's, clearly got manic depression issues. Doom and Namor are both bipolar, I think. And he goes back and basically says, nope, you're my friend, and this is what friends are supposed to do. So I feel like Doom has been watching Sesame Street, and he's had a lesson on what it means to be a friend.
That's right. So then we transition to Hydra Base, and we see Atuma's army is on the march, and the Octomechs are floating through the sky, searching for Dr. Jennings, and a lone ship approaches, Chris. Dr. Doom on board, one man against an entire army.
Yep, and again, I'm just like, there comes a time when you have to make a supervillain too stupid to live. And this is one of those times. Doom, who knocked them out the last time they saw him and stole their prisoner, flies over and he throws something out of his ship. And Dr. Dorcas yells to Tiger Shark, "It's Doom! Look out, Todd! He's throwing something at you." And Doom has time to say, "Something indeed, if your brilliant mind were not childlike compared to mine, Dorcas," which is the perfect name to say with disdain, "you would recognize the purpose of this device at a glance." By the time Doom is done talking, the device is an electrical harpoon. So he flies over. They both see him throwing something. So it's like, I'm sorry, if I'm standing down below and I look up and somebody throws something at me, I'm going to step to one side. This does not take, it's a basic instinct, right? This does not take brilliance.
So while Dorcas is getting the electric harpoon off of Tiger Shark, Doom takes
dirty.
out. It did sound dirty. Doom takes out every single one of the Octomechs. Just in one panel. And then he flies towards, the compound.
And he also he mentions something about how timing. Doom says something about how timing is going to be everything in this. Namor has to do his part at the right moment.
Right. So we see Atuma getting ready to go battle Doom, while in another part of the base, the Namor is sneaking up and sees that there's only one guard with the hostages. Only one.
Yeah, so all the amphibians at Hydra Base are hostage. Namor manages to free them, but one is missing. A red-skinned woman named Tamara.
That's right.
Who is different, Brian, from the rest of the amphibians.
She is. Now, do you remember her origin? I don't.
No, I don't. We'll have to look it up, but I don't.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up.
So Atuma has called up his reserve forces, but Namor manages to get a shot in on Dorcas and Tiger Shark. And he has the opportunity. All he has to do is use the same weapon to take out Atuma. And then basically it's over. This is the thing that Doom has been waiting for him to do. But as happens in, so many movies of this era, this is the moment in the movies when both parties have weapons and one person has the other person at their mercy. But then it's like, no, I must be a real man and put this weapon aside and beat this person with my bare hands.
Right. Right. Oh, and I looked up Tamara. I do remember this now. She was an extraterrestrial.
Okay.
She was from the same planet. Remember the Lubderdites?
Yes.
In the Defenders? Same planet. Different race, same planet.
Oh, my. I tried to block out my memory of the Lubderdites. But it's like Al Pacino in Godfather. Every time I think I'm out, you pull me back in.
I worked them into Thor Metal Gods. There's a Lubderdite cameo in the space bar.
I remember you mentioning that.
I did.
All right. So basically, Doom is pissed because Namor has just blown the simplest plan of all time. It's like, you just had to do this one thing, Namor, but your ridiculous machismo has kicked in and you've screwed it up, and now Doom is being attacked by all of Atuma's forces, including, and I want to say this again, including the jester. What's his name again? Sarusan.
Yeah.
Who is basically dancing from foot to foot with his hands up next to his face, doing the like making fun of Doom.
And he even has a song, Doom-de-doodly doom.
Yeah, and please show that panel as well. This seems, and I'm going to say, Sarusan, this seems like a really bad idea.
It does.
I'm just, it's a bad idea.
He christens Doom the Terrible Tin Pot. Yep. And all of Atuma's soldiers start laughing at this.
Yep. And then he says, look at his eye, the mighty Dr. Sarusan. I am all-powerful unless I rust. This is just a bad idea. Yeah. And then he's pretending Doom is afraid. I am master, so I order somebody to please save me. He's just mocking Doom. We cut away to the Submariner fighting Dorcas and Tiger Shark, and Atuma. And they get the moment. I mean, Dorcas has Namor in his sights of his weapon.
And at the same time, Doom is down too, and Atuma's soldiers are dragging him across the sand.
Yep.
But luckily, in the sand are two high explosive missiles from a wrecked Octomech, and Doom just happens to bang them together.
No, on purpose. And again, I think this actually is a scene that would be great on film.
It would.
So, he grabs these two missiles and smashes them together, and they explode, incinerating all of these Atuma soldiers around him. But of course, because of his armor, Doom himself is fine. And we cut back to Namor basically in a wrestling match with Tiger Shark, which includes Namor smashing his fist into Tiger Shark's skull, and Tiger Shark yells, "Ah, my ear! Doc, please!" And all I can think of is, oh Christ, what's his name? Who bit the ear off the guy?
Oh, Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson, there you go. Yeah. So,
but then, Namor decides he's going to kill Dorcas, but he doesn't want to soil his royal hands with Dorcas's foul blood. So he decides he's going to kill him by throwing Tiger Shark at him.
As you do.
Dorcas, the toss misses, and
Tiger Shark smashes into the legs of one of the Octomechs, which falls down on top of Dr. Dorcas and crushes him.
That's right. And it is done. The caption tells us.
Yep. So then, Namor says, Basically, you're lucky, Atuma. I've had my fill of killing today. And he hands Atuma and his men and Tiger Shark over to Dr. Jennings and the amphibians for them to imprison.
That's right.
And then Namor goes to walk back to where Dr. Doom is. Dr. Doom, however, he could survive anything, Brian, but not mockery.
No. He is on the beach, one-on-one against Sarusan, and he says, laugh. Doom wants you to laugh, Chester.
I believe this is the scene in which Sarusan has soiled his pants.
Yep. He then offers Sarusan, he says, you mimicked me before, Jester. Here then, play again. Show us what Dr. Doom did. And he hands Sarusan 2 missiles.
Which is the implication here that Sarusan is willing to destroy himself so Dr. Doom doesn't torture him? Or is he really stupid?
Well, no, the implication here is Sarusan does not know the missiles are actually armed.
Okay.
So he hands him these 2 missiles. Sarusan bangs them together, pantomiming what Doom did, blows himself up. And Namor is appalled. He says, Doom, he was harmless. That was murder. And Doom says, I'm in no mood to be lectured, Namor. Your value judgments interest me not.
Right. Oh, man, yes. So Namor then is concerned. Perhaps we are invincible, he says, yet I wonder what manner of soulless creature I am allied with. And Doom says, beware, Namor, one day when your precious feelings again stay you from your duty towards me, I may turn on you and dissolve our alliance with your death.
So much for being friends.
Yeah. But they are friends. And again, I know I keep making these references, but anybody who's seen Big Little Lies, this is the relationship between Nicole Kidman and her husband.
It is. And Chris, Chris, I got to tell you, you're one of my best friends, until the day when your precious feelings stay you from your duty towards me, and then I may turn you and dissolve our alliance.
Brian, I would expect nothing less. And I hope when that day comes that I'm not stupid enough to smash 2 missiles together in my bare hands.
All right, true believers. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. Once again, I want to give a shout out to our engineer, Matt Wildison. His books are available on Amazon, including his 2 short story collections, Horrors Untold and Horrors Untold 2. We hope that you will support him by checking those out. Next week, Chris, we have a new artist, a new writer, and supposedly a new direction from the House of Ideas.
Next week, Brian, we're going to talk about one of our mutual favorite Marvel characters who still has yet to have the spotlight that he deserves.
That's right. We are, of course, talking about the Shroud.
Excellent. Can't wait.
All right. We'll see you next week, folks.
All right. Excelsior, true believers.
Defenders Dialogue is a production of the Brian Keene Radio Network. You can listen to this episode and all previous episodes for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play Music, and wherever else podcasts are available. Defenders Dialogue is written and produced by Brian Keene and Christopher Golden. Our theme music is by Xander Harris. Our engineer is Matt Wildison. Check out his books on Amazon.com. If you enjoyed this show, you might enjoy our other podcasts, The Horror Show with Brian Keene, Cosmic Shenanigans, and Grindcast. To advertise on Defenders Dialogue, visit briankeene.com and click Podcasts.